Well, I'm delighted to talk with you. I've been a fan of yours for a while. In fact, the first time I think I've ever noticed you was in Adventures in Babysitting,
Mm.
or was that it?
Don't tell mom. Don't tell mom the babysitter's dead.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's it. There, I just screwed that whole thing up.
That's okay. People get them confused all the time. They came out a year apart, and then Keith Coogan, who was in Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, was also in Adventures in Babysitting. So,
But that was, I think, David Duchovny's one of his first films.
yeah, it was. That's right. I know. That's crazy.
Growing up in Plainview, New York, and wanting, I suppose, to be an actor was that a hard journey?
Um, I mean, I don't think I would go back to I won't allow my kids to be in the business at that age. I think I would let them just be kids and then make that decision when they know what it is that they're getting involved in. But I couldn't have imagined it going any other way. I mean, it's crazy that we're still sitting here talking about movies that I've done, 30 years ago. It's pretty amazing, actually.
Well, I think that road is really great for people to understand that, it is work. It's a long journey, and even getting your SAG card.
Mm-hmm.
I think you did One Life to Live.
Mm-hmm.
Is that where you earned that card?
Yeah, I actually that was different. That was before SAG merged with AFTRA. So that was just AFTRA back then because it was television. And then I think I got my SAG card. God, I mean, I've been a member since 1985. So if that's not aging me. So I think I might have done, I know I did like Spencer for Hire and a couple of other little things before that had earned me my glorious SAG card. It's almost like a college degree. Nobody really asks you if you have that anymore. They just kind of assume, after all these years. So, but yeah, I've been at it for a long time.
Well, and also what's impressive to me is I come from voice acting. My aunt was June Foray, who did the voice of Rocky, the Flying Squirrel, and Natasha, and all of that. So you're Debbie Thornberry.
Yes.
I mean, that's so iconic, and learning to do voice work is another completely different muscle.
Yes, it's the most fun though. I mean, I love anything that I get to show up in my sweatpants. Hence, why I like doing my interviews, why Zoom has been so amazing, and also, doing the podcast that I work on as well. It's comfortable. I would love for the Wild Thornberrys to come back. They've brought back all of these nostalgic, sort of pop culture shows for us now, and I'm just fingers crossed that one day Debbie Thornberry will see the light of day again. One would hope.
She needs her own show. Is really
Yes, I think that Eliza and Debbie should have their own nature show now that the parents are retired and have it go from there.
I think I sat down and I did an interview with you back then when you did the movie. And I think we were at in Canada. I think we were at Toronto.
Okay, yeah, probably.
You sat and I talked with the cast and got to know Lacey and
yeah.
And the gang, and wow, I'm always impressed by how different you can sound when you're voicing a character. Do you is it really the same philosophy though as taking on any character, is just understanding who it is and how it's written?
I think for me, I don't know about for you, but for me, there's more freedom in voiceover work. I think each episode I would do Debbie, and then I would also do different animals. So to be able to be creative when no one's watching is extraordinary. So I think there's a lot more freedom in being able to make risky choices and to do silly things maybe that you wouldn't necessarily allow yourself in front of a bunch of people that while you're being recorded for the world to see. So I love doing voiceover work. I would like to do more of it, ideally.
Now, we're going to talk a little bit about Roadkill in a moment, but I just want to get this kind of history down and talk about these great characters that you played, because you've been a part of the Halloween franchise for a long time, but wearing different hats in it as well. When you played Annie,
yes,
how did she differ from Jamie?
Well, I was Jamie first and then came back as Annie. I mean, it was 20 years later too. So I definitely felt like, I guess I really didn't really realize the love that fans had for Jamie until I came back as Annie, because it had been so many years. I had only done one horror movie in between those two characters, essentially, which people always still go back to, like, oh, you're horror. It's like, actually, I had a good 20 years where I only did urban legend, which was the only film that I had done from 1990 until 2007. But I didn't realize the love and the fandom, I think, that came with that title until I came back for Rob Zombie's Halloween. And I was like, whoa, dude, I didn't even realize that people still cared or were still interested in me being a part of that Halloween world. But I think because I wasn't in Halloween 6, there was sort of, there was another actress that had played my character, and then that character died. I think that they felt like they didn't have closure. So to bring me back for the new one was a nice little cherry on top of the sundae, I would say. It felt like just like another day on set. It was weird seeing Michael, but I didn't have a ton of work to do, so I felt like I was sort of passing the torch to Scout Compton, who is now playing Laurie Strode. Like, okay, now you're the new girl in the franchise. I'm gonna go ahead and pass it on to you. And now there's newer girls, and it goes through. They do them in threes, it feels like, and now there's a new crowd.
And Scott Taylor Compton is one of my dear friends, and I think she did outstanding, but there's a hole there. There's still a hole there.
Of course. You can't replace iconic characters like that and not expect to get people to. She did a great job, but you can't compare, and people are still holding on to that, the love of Jamie Lee Curtis. So, but I think she did a phenomenal job. I know who the network was wanting, or I'm sorry, who the studios were wanting when Rob was fighting for her, and I'm glad that he won and that she was able to do that role. Yeah,
and she also is an amazing actress, can just about do anything, And
she always gives me because I don't watch any of her movies. She watches mine, but I'm like, she works so much that I can barely keep up with her. Actually, she was just trying to FaceTime me about 10 minutes ago, and I didn't answer. So
she's always on social media doing something.
Yes.
We all love
her. She doesn't stop, that woman.
I got photobombed by Jamie Lee Curtis at the Hollywood Haunted Nights over at Universal Studios.
Oh, that's nice.
And I think you've been there once or twice.
I have, yeah. They had the Halloween 4 maze there. That's pretty amazing that the fourth installment of a feature of a franchise could have its own, thing at Universal Studios. That's you don't see that very often.
And when you go to fan events like conventions and things like that, is that the number one thing they talk about, or do they talk about the Thornberrys?
No, they always talk about Halloween. And now that Scout and I have created a podcast called Talk Scary to Me, and most of the fans talk about that now. And we created that so people would talk to us about something other than Halloween, and it's worked. So it's nice to get to know people and have them get to know us on a different level after all these years.
Now, you stepped into the director's role a couple of times, and you're producing as well. You've got a couple of films coming out. How does that hat feel?
It's what I know. I've seen it for so many years and been around it for so many years that and have helped other. I've been stars of movies for first-time directors, so I've known both sides of the camera for a long time. So it feels like natural progression. Going from student to teacher, sort of, so to speak. And it's nice to be challenged creatively as well, where I feel like a lot of the movies that, especially in the horror genre, we can kind of do this with our eyes closed. It's easy for us to do it because we've been there. It's easy to draw all that emotion, and also quite exhausting to carry the lead roles in some of these movies. I'm older now, so I feel like it's just kind of the way that it needs to go. Not that I'm not going to be starring in movies anymore, because you can't, that's the greatest feeling in the world, but it's nice to have a little more control over the outcome of the project that you don't have when you're just in front of the camera.
Yeah, but in stepping into sets, I think any set obviously is going to be an educational process, but in watching directors, and you've worked with some great directors in the past, shooting a horror film is different than shooting a comedy. I mean, it's
Yes.
just, where you're setting the cameras, what levels, the lighting, and all that. And you've got to be aware of all of that as a director.
I know it so well, though, that it's like second nature. It's more complicated for me to go and do a comedy or to go do a rom-com or to do something out of the horror world because I'm not as confident in it because I haven't been around it as much. I mean, action movies, I've done a lot of those, so it's kind of the same. Like horror is very similar. The dance that you have to do, there's a lot of moving parts and you can't rehearse stuff like that because you just don't know what's going to happen. The movies that I do, it's a lot of practical effects too. So you don't have time. And as the years move forward, we're getting less and less time to make movies and less money. So the great thing about making horror movies or movies in the genre, so to speak, is a lot of them are first-time directors, but all of the directors that choose to take on these movies are fans.
Yeah.
I've yet to work with a director that wasn't a huge horror fanboy or girl. I mean, I've worked with some women too. So it's you don't see that very often, that the fans are the ones that are also making the movies that they know that they would want to see or that their audience wants to see. It's cool to be a part of that.
And to see the progression of how horror films are made too, from the outside, because it used to be very, very the setups were so fast, and now we're allowing audiences to get a little bit nervous, and it gets creepy. Not just blood; it's just a psychological buildup that is so brilliant these days.
It's coming back to how it should have been. We lost track there for a little while. And then I think now it's making its way back to just telling a story and getting to know characters and keeping things simple. That simple is sometimes scarier. People feel like they have to go big or go home, and more blood, more this, more that, more scares, more jumps, more, whatever. And I don't think that that's necessarily necessary.
Roadkill is coming out in just a few days. And tell me a little bit about your character, Allison.
It's fun to have these cameos. I can come in and sort of create anything. And sometimes the cameos are the ones that stick out. To be honest, when I got the script, I originally wanted to play driver because I thought, oh God, this is great. Just me sitting in a car and having conversations. And there's so much that I could play with here and do here. And there's so much to the character that I could create. And in this world, I can really go for it. And then, they were like, oh, she's already cast and you're a little old. They didn't say that, but I was like, oh wait, she's young. She's young. I guess I just don't see myself as old as I actually am.
I certainly don't see that.
But I was like, this would be really fun. And they were like, no, it's for Allison. So I was like, cool. I just wanted to be a part of it, support new filmmakers and especially people that are working together and creating their own stuff, which I think is incredibly important to, if not wait around to make it happen, do it yourself if you're going to do it. And I thought it was very simple and stylistically, and I hadn't done a film in the 80s, so to speak, since I was in the 80s. So that was really fun. And she's just kind of a kooky, quirky, the waitress that you find at a truck stop diner. And I haven't done her yet. But I've seen many of them when I've taken road trips with my husband. So it was nice to just have a little bit of fun.
Yeah, she is, when we see Allison for the first time, the tone of the film changes even. You're in for something really kind of fun. There's a wink to the audience that, hey, if Danielle's in this, we know something bad's going to happen.
Yeah, of course. Then they set up for the sequel and all that stuff. It was like, okay, I get it. I see what's happening here. So I was happy to be a part of it.
Do you still find yourself auditioning for roles and stuff like that?
I hate auditioning. I just absolutely hate it. So most of the movies I do are offers, and that's why I'm very happy to stay in my horror genre world where I just get offers and don't have to go do that. And also, we work with each other over and over again. It's the same group of us that keep working together. So it's a very small community of filmmakers and fans. So I think that I know what I'm getting myself into when I know who's involved. And also, I'll get a call from Kane Hodder or whoever, and they're like, hey, Dee, I've got this friend of mine is making this movie and blah, blah, blah. It's going to be fun. It's 3 days in Ohio. You're going to be freezing, but we're going to have a blast and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, okay, fine. Well, I'll do yes. I'll do it. Tell me what I have to do. I'm packed. I'm ready to go. So, because it's still fun, it becomes a big family and we all want to support one another. And I feel like this is the only, as far as actors and actresses, we all want each other to succeed. There isn't really competition in this world, which you don't really have that support in outside of, like TV world and all that. Like I remember auditions and no one's really smiling at you. No one's really wanting to like befriend you. Everyone's kind of looking at you sideways like, oh, she might get it. She might get it. Oh, what is she doing here? It's weirdly competitive. And I just feel like after so many years of being in the business, I don't want to be a movie star that bad where I have to put myself in front of casting directors anymore for auditions. But if it was a huge thing that I needed to, absolutely.
Does it blow you away when other actresses in this genre call you or text you and say, wow, what a great job?
Yeah, I mean, it means a lot because I know that they know what really was going on or know how those projects go sometimes. So when one of your peers, it's like why Screen Actors Guild Awards are such a big deal versus the academies, because it's your own people voting for you. So I think that it's a different kind of feeling, and it's definitely, yeah, it's I don't even know what the word is. It's like an honor when your friend that you also love and think is talented comes to you and says, I really loved what you did in that movie. You were fabulous. I did a movie with Bill Moseley called Natty Knox that Dwight Little, who directed Halloween 4, directed and wrote. And it was our first time teaming back up since Halloween 4. And it came out a few months ago, unfortunately, during the time where we were on strike, and I couldn't do any promotion for it, and which would really bum me out because I was very excited to do that again. And I'll never forget, I had the scene with Bill, and I've worked with Bill numerous times. I've killed him in movies. And I did something, and he looked at me, he goes, that scream is the best scream I have ever heard working, ever, from anybody. I was like, holy, really? You've heard everybody scream. Like, you've killed almost everybody. So I'm honored. And he'll still, when I see him at shows and stuff and we're great friends, he'll tell other people like, her scream. It's like, so stuff like that. It's like, you wear it with a badge of honor.
And you don't mind being called a scream queen.
No, it's got a different connotation than it had, years and years and years ago.
Yeah,
it's
there
a
are
chance for us to be leads.
That term,
everyone's going to bitch about something.
Yeah. And that's people do bitch about things, that you kind of go, well, that's kind of first world problems, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it's like I've been called worse, trust me.
Oh, no, not you. Not you.
Nah, probably not me.
So as we're closing our interview, I mean, sitting in a director's chair has got to be just so fulfilling for so many reasons. I mean, you're calling the shots, your people are coming to you, and your day is just flooded with problems and solutions, but it must be so rewarding.
It is when it goes right. I mean, I feel like every set I work on, I learn something. Sometimes stuff that I didn't want to have to learn, but you always take away something from every production. And I feel like directing, definitely, I learned 10 times what I've learned being in the director's seat than I've ever learned being, you have no trailer to go to. So you're just problem solving everything, and problems come up that you didn't know existed on sets. And I like being in control. I'm very A-type. I'm a very A-type personality. So it's totally fine with me. I don't lose my temper. I know what it's like to keep a good working environment, which is also really important. And I also know how to get people to get it done. So I think that a combination of both of those things, and the respect, that because I have created a name in the horror world, there's a lot of respect there and a lot of help, people wanting to come and help on board that are way overqualified to be working on movies that I'm, directing for the first time or that I'm a part of, that will still come lend a hand, which is really nice.
And your podcast is so much fun. I mean, it is just
crazy.
Hilarious.
Yeah, it's taken on a life of its own. We've teamed up with Bloody FM and Bloody Disgusting, and they're big cheerleaders for us. And it continues to evolve into craziness, and it's a lot of fun. I'm having fun allowing the world to get to know me in a different way than they thought. I'm getting ready to write a book this year and possibly do a documentary. And there are a lot of things that I'm finally at the phase of my life where I feel like I have the story to tell, because I kind of have the beginning, the middle, and the end. Where maybe 10 years ago when it was first brought to me, I was like, well, what's the end of my story? So I think now I've got a little bit better of a grasp at my age on kind of where things are going, and have a story to tell, or at least a story that I'm willing to share now than I, versus 10 years ago.
Well, I don't think you're just ending just yet.
Oh no, I'm just beginning. Are you kidding?
Every day is just a brand new beginning. You never
every day I'm hustling.
You never know what's going to be FedEx to you.
No. Oh my God. It's funny because actually UPS just pulled up outside my house about 5 minutes ago. So you never know.
Well, Danielle, thank you so much for your time today. And
thanks, Tony.
Again, we want to all see Roadkill. It's opening on the 5th. It'll be available online.
Yep. Streaming services and also in the theaters.
Yeah. So I would see it on a big screen, because that's
for sure. I always support movies on the big screen. Absolutely.
It reminds me so much of The Hitcher, that kind of suspense and that kind of white knuckle.
Yeah.
To it. Anyway, I appreciate it. And again,
thanks, Tony,
so much. And I hope we can get together sometime and talk again.
Let's do it. Sounds good.